Good evening.
Can you hear me in the back? Thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Cousins?
Here.
Councilmember Fisher?
Yes.
Councilmember Knight?
Here.
Councilmember Michels?
Present.
Councilmember Smith? Councilmember Tao?
Yes.
Mayor Keo?
Here. We have two sets of meeting minutes to approve tonight. Our regular city council meeting on May 29th and the city council work session that preceded that on May 29th.
I'll move to approve both of those.
Moved by Smith, thank you.
I'll second.
Seconded by Knight, thank you. Mr. Smith, any comments or questions? No. Suggested changes? Ms. Knight?
No.
Other council members? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the two sets of minutes, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. We have no prearranged participation this evening, so we're down to item E, which is approval of the agenda. Noting, I was just going to say, noting that there is item L8 on the table in front of us.
I'll move to approve the agenda, adding the L8 green sheet. I'd also like to propose that we change L2, the engineering standards, and L4, taping of council meetings to discussion items.
I'll second.
The motion by Smith, second by Fisher.
I also don't have any updates for the closed session at all, so you can have it, but I have nothing to report. I've not heard back on either issue.
I'd be
So.
fine with moving to closed session.
Okay, so we're adding L8, which, just for the public's benefit, is consideration of partnering with the schools to improve access to the industrial park is the title.
This is a consideration item?
It's shown as a
Yeah.
consideration.
Okay.
And then changing L2 to discussion, I heard, and L4 to discussion,
Yes.
and eliminating the closed session. Carol, did you get all of that? Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor of approving the agenda as modified, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Those opposed? Fisher was the second. Okay, item F is public hearings. And we have a couple of them today. The first public hearing is on our 2018-2019 budget and millage rate. So there's no action on the budget at this proposed following this public hearing, but there is consideration of the millage rate following this public hearing. So I'm going to open the public hearing at
7:08.
7:08. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that has a public comment on the draft budget or proposed millage rate? Okay, seeing none. Just get to the right page here for a second. Just for the public record, the general fund millage rate is proposed as 10.8987. The street millage rate is proposed at 3.4075 for a total of 14.3062. That is no change in any of the two, the general, the street, or the total. Just so we have at least a little bit of comment on the record report.
We're also keeping the administration fee at 1%.
Right.
What was this year? That's in here as well.
Are you looking for a motion?
Well, I'm going to close the public hearing. Did I get to 7:09?
Yep.
Okay, that was my goal. Okay, so now, yes, somebody to...
I move the resolution of adoption of the fiscal year 2018-19 millage rates and administration fee, and you quoted what they are. So I need to repeat them.
Okay, motion by Fisher, second by Smith. Thank you both. Comments, please. Julie?
Again, I have to state this every year. I work this with two separate motions, one for the admin fee and one for millage rates, because I'm in favor of one and opposed to the other. And when they're both grouped together, it makes it difficult to vote.
Okay. Other council comments?
Well, as I was poking around this weekend, the 10.8 general fund that we collect is the lowest I found in the county. When you add the other stuff up, we add for the roads and the other stuff, but the 10, that is very tight. Our staff just squeezes a lot of lemonade out of that lemon.
Yep.
There's very few changes in the draft budget, obviously not on the millage rate. I know we're not considering the budget, but just so you know, there's just, anything that's changed was something that we talked about, but very little from what you saw, besides adding the GTE payment, which we will make coming up on the first meeting in July. For the substation removal, that's probably like the major change. And I'll just reuse this memo for the adoption, basically, next meeting, and add any other changes if anything comes up in the next 2 weeks, but I won't see too much.
Thank you. All your work on the budget and the staffs as well. So we'll do that next time, but motion on the table is to approve the resolution of adoption of the millage rates and administration fee. Ms. Jones, please call the vote.
Cousins.
Yes.
Tell.
Yes.
Knight.
Reluctantly, yes.
Oh.
You should have said no.
Michelle's.
Yes?
Smith.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Thank you. Our second public hearing this evening is related to our 2018-2019 utility rates and the ordinance that we need to consider. We'll get to that page. So I need to open the public hearing for the utility rate ordinance, i.e. water and sewer rates. What time is it?
7:12.
So at 7:12, we'll open the public hearing for that. Is there anyone that would like to speak on water and sewer rates?
Hey, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
you have to talk now, or
Yes,
can you say
please.
something later?
You can say something now on if it's related to water and sewer rates, Mr. Murphy?
What was the first one? Please tell me the
The
first.
first one was the millage rates, which didn't change.
I have to identify myself.
Yes. Yes, please. At least give us your address.
My name is Bob Murphy, and I live at 3713 Bristol Drive, Dexter Crossing. Let me see. 2007, public hearing on budget. And the trustee at that time said either no one comes to these hearings, either we're doing a good job or they don't care. Do you get any feedback from people? I mean, I don't have a computer to start with, so I'm assuming that people talk to you, or doesn't anybody in this, there are no residents here. Every time I come here, it seems like everyone's happy, right?
It's a wonderful place.
No complaints. I mean, it's accepted fact that water rates are going to increase, right? I mean, that's a given. Anyways, the trustee, that's 11 years ago when I came here. And that man said that. Now he's a council person. What do you think?
I don't think it's much different, but
No one cares,
well,
or you're doing a hell of a job.
I guess I could say ditto 11 years later.
In reference to the water increases. And if I may, last year up until the current water bill, we used 21,000 gallons of water, domestic water. That's 57 and a half gallons a day for two of us. If you remember, I said the average is 75 to 100. National average is 75 to 100. And comparing the numbers and everything, and with the millage increases and top, the assessed taxable value increases, I figure this year, coming year, it'll cost us another $116.20. You know, that's not gonna break us. I mean, I've been pension and stuff, but people never seem to look at the numbers anymore. It's like, use that 10,000 gallon thing, and if you go to the percentage, 7 and 3 is 10, but if you do it on an annual basis, it drops back down to like 5.29. Doesn't sound bad, does it? I don't. I would like to ask a couple other questions, if I could, not related to that. We don't have a building department, do we?
Building, no.
We use the county.
And you have like almost 100 different permits or fees that you assess for given things, right? So
It's a
you
healthy
charge
fee-
for
it's a
those,
healthy
but
fee schedule.
who does the
Yeah, but that's-
inspecting? And how, you pay the county?
So if it's an inspection for building code, the county does. If it has to do with fire code, DAFD comes and does that. If it's a city code, then I do it.
If I could ask maybe, the city manager, this is part of your stuff, right?
Yeah, the fee schedule?
The permits.
Right.
It says here, payment in lieu of parking, $9,000 per space. What does that mean?
So if you develop a property in the village commercial district, so that's one of our zoning districts, and you can't provide the required amount of parking on your site,
Yeah.
then you would pay us $9,000 per parking place that you're not able to provide. So an
And you're
example,
gonna provide that parking.
then we could use that in a way we saw fit to add to, we have to use that for parking somewhere in the network, yes. Yep.
Am I out of line asking these kind of questions?
No?
No, you're
No.
not.
I'm not here to cause unrest. It just amazes me. I'm 85 years old. It's the kind of things I see today. Hey, Bob Murphy, how come you didn't ask those questions 20 years ago or 30 years ago? It's like when I moved in here and we were paying a millage for street maintenance and no one was taking care of the streets except the association. That went on for 8 years. You know, it's like, if you wanted something, you better ask. You better know what you're talking about. You know, and I'm not faulting anybody here. You all do a wonderful job. You're all very good people. But Bob Murphy was wrestling with this. Hey, you dummy, you didn't ask. You know? Let's see. There is, and by the way, that thing, somebody did a lot of printing, and a lot of stuff. There's a lot of information. Anybody ever read this stuff?
Everybody here.
I certainly hope.
5 out of 7.
We'll roll with
We've never put the fees all in one place before, so it does make it look like a lot, but most of them have been in existence for a long time.
Well, the last year, the city of Ann Arbor uses line item budget. The The last year I was there, I did the one for the fire department. Well, that was nothing compared to this. And I know a lot of these numbers are just enlarged from last year. I'm sure, you know, you don't sit down and redo everything, right? I get that, you know. Yeah, well, I know, I know about streets. What's the difference between municipal and, let's see,
Major and local?
pardon?
Municipal, major, and local?
Yes, sir. What's the difference between municipal and major?
So municipal streets is where the money goes that comes from the street millage. So the
I
3.9.
know, but what is a municipal street?
Well, that's what I'm getting to. So that's just where we store sort of the big pot of money. And then when we actually spend the money, we have to decide whether we're spending it on a major street or a local street. So major streets are Ann Arbor Street, Baker, Second, Hudson, those types of streets. Local streets are Bristol,
Yeah.
you know, Webster, those sorts of streets. So we keep all the money in the municipal streets, and then we transfer it to either major or local, depending on what we're doing. So municipal is kind of like the holding pot of the money, and then we transfer it, and then we get money from the state also that goes directly to major or local, depending on the
But there's not a municipal street.
No.
That's just the major.
They're either major streets or local streets, correct? Yeah.
On page 10, under arts and supply, talks about clean air, P-L-E-I-N. Is that a mistake or what? What is clean?
No, that's our annual festival. You might remember it where the painters paint around the city and then we sell the paintings in Monument Park. It's right after Dexter Days. That's our plein air festival. Have you seen that? Yeah, that's what that is.
Why
It's just a
would I
fancy
ask?
French word.
Anybody wondering why I asked this dumb question?
I asked that question when I first saw it.
Clean air.
Right.
By the way, did you talk to the municipal people, trash pickup?
No, not yet.
You didn't?
Not yet.
Well, it's funny because the week after I talked to you about it, they picked up the solid waste first. So I thought maybe Justin pull some weight.
Oh, yeah, now you remember, don't you? You remember calling, don't you?
Right.
I guess I should have asked what the context was first.
In reference to the wave contribution, City of Dexter, Webster Township. Doesn't Dexter Township participate in the wave? Don't they make, I mean, you didn't have a amount listed, maybe you don't have to. For Dexter Township.
Yeah, I was just gonna look at her email. I don't remember off the top of my head who all was.
I know Dexter.
Yeah, Dexter Township pays $9,300
Yeah.
and Webster pays $13,000. Yeah, it's on page 43.
How did I miss that?
Oh, sorry, you might have thought it was the city.
I'll just, next time I'll just come to your house.
You do know where I'm
It's close.
Save all these people. So there's no permit required or fee if I own a house and I'm renting it, or if I own 3 or 4 houses.
No,
You don't do that.
no, we don't have rental inspections
No inspection.
or registration, no.
Not yet.
You better. Well, I've said this before. You're gonna get burnt someday if you don't. Ask the fire chief.
Was that unintentional?
I'm sorry.
Get burnt.
Okay. I guess I won't waste any more of your time.
I appreciate that you looked at so much.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't have anything else to do. Today I'm doing numbers. And you know, if you invest money in the market, 2 and 2 is not 4.
No.
And when someone has an answer for that, I'd like to hear about it. But anyways, thank you. You're doing a good job. I just can't understand why. I guess there's a lot of money in this town, people don't. You're doing such a good job, right, Mr. Cousins?
One or the other.
Wonderful job. No one cares. No one pays any attention.
You didn't forget what I said 11 years ago. Nice to hear.
Thank you.
I wish others would do that.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy, for coming and participating. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak tonight at the public hearing related to setting water and sewer rates? Okay, seeing none. Seeing no more comments. What do we have as a time here? 7:25. Thank you for closing. Okay. And the agenda tells us that we should consider the 2018-19 utility rate ordinance if somebody's been up to move it.
I'll move that. It's the ordinance appearing on page 27 and 28.
Okay, moved by Smith. Second by Fisher. And just for the public comment, the rates are proposed to go up. The water rates are proposed with a 3% increase over last year's rates. The sewer rates are proposed to have a 7% increase. There's also a $1 increase per month for the refuse collection. And the surcharge rates on the sewer surcharge rates are proposed to increase 7% as well. As Mr. Murphy indicated, the typical overall percentage increase across water, sewer, and refuse is 5.69%. Any other council comments, or can I call have Carol call the vote? Ms. Jones, please call the vote.
Tell,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Michelle's,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes, motion carries. Excellent, thank you. We are down to non-arranged participation. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to
Does
this?
anybody want, well, first, excuse me, anybody want to? Excuse me, I have it wrong. Go ahead. Sorry.
No problem, no problem. We're on G.
Gotcha, I was jumping ahead, sorry.
Welcome, no problem. Welcome and good evening.
My name is Tom Burke. I live actually at 3769 Santa Fe Trail in Pittsfield Township. I'm here today to introduce myself. I am a candidate for 14A District Judge. It's the only race that it will be contested. I'm running against the incumbent Cedric Simpson, who sits at 14A in Hogback, on the Hogback facility. So for those of you who may not know, I'll give you a quick recitation of what 14A is. 14A is the district court for misdemeanors, for criminal, for cases under $25,000 in civil cases and landlord-tenant, and then the district judges also handle the preliminary examinations countywide for felony cases. 14A encompasses the entire county except the city of Ann Arbor, which has its own district court, and Ypsilanti Township, which also has its own district court. There's 3 judges in 14A. Judge Simpson sits at Hogback, Judge Conlon sits in Chelsea, Judge Tabby sits in Ypsilanti, and then there's a 4th facility on Maple Road in Saline that the judges basically come in for the day and have hearings related to those cases. A little bit of background about myself. I've been practicing for almost 37 years. I've been in Washtenaw County practicing for 25. I've done all kinds of civil litigation, work in a small firm, E.B. Connors, Smiley & Burke, in a 4-person firm in downtown Ann Arbor. I have a wife and 2 kids, 2 grown kids, and I have been involved in the community. And just sort of want to let people know that I'm running because there aren't very many contested elections. About 2/3 of the voters in the district who vote at the top of the ticket vote for judge. So I would hope that all of you would go down the entire thing. It's nonpartisan. One of the issues is trying to make sure people know that there is actually a contest. It will be the only contest of a judicial race on your ballot except for the Supreme Court, which always will have a contest. So I'm happy to answer any questions about myself, about the court, about campaigns, anything like that. I'll stick around till afterwards. This is like the 15th one of these I've introduced myself to, and generally people don't ask me questions, but I also like to stick around just to see what kind of work is going on in the various places, and it's interesting to see how all the different boards and councils, how they do their business. So I hope that you'll all vote November 6th, and hopefully you'll see some signs and stuff for me. Oh, by the way, my name is spelled weird. It's Burke, but it's B-O-U-R-Q-U-E. So hopefully you'll see that and you'll say, oh, okay, that's a strange name. So thank you very much.
Thanks. Hold on one second. Oh, perfect. But thank you for coming this evening and introducing yourself. I think Trustee Tell had a question.
Oh, sure.
Howdy. Now, what can you offer me that Judge Simpson isn't offering me already?
Well,
other than his previous issues, I don't know.
Well, one of the reasons I'm running is because of what the actions that Judge Simpson took that he was suspended for.
Right.
And because I don't think some of those are consistent with being a judge. And I think that the voters should have a choice when normally they don't have a choice. I've been practicing for 36 years. I have a good reputation in town for being a reasonable person. I believe in the rule of law. I think you should follow the law, but I also think there needs to be some compassion involved, especially in trying to make sure that we're not just keeping people rotating back into the system. Try and find a way to get them, especially like in misdemeanors that keep repeating, try and find a way to get those people so they don't come back all the time. What I offer experience, integrity, and a long time of being able to work with people. And I think the one thing that I will tell you that I will do is that I'm going to respect everybody in the system. I've been a lawyer long enough to know that a lot of times when you are in court, sometimes it seems like it's a one-way street, and it shouldn't always be a one-way street. I mean, the judge should respect everybody's time. They should respect them if they need to say something. And in district court especially, because a lot of people are not represented by lawyers, you need to make sure everybody understands what has happened and how you ruled, so that they at least know that they've been heard and that you've explained the reason for a ruling, so that they'll at least go away thinking, okay, I understand what happened here, even if they don't like the rulings.
Can I ask your position on the millage that was passed last November about mental health? Were the counties or the entities with their own police force retained their 28%?
I think that the overall basis of that is good, because I think that one of the things to try and do is use mental health resources to do exactly what I was talking about, which is avoid having people, for instance, with substance abuse problems just keep coming back to the court. Putting them in jail doesn't work. Whether it was, I don't know, I didn't study it well enough to know how it affected each of the various, like the city of Dexter versus Ann Arbor.
It doesn't matter. I'm just interested in your position about.
Well, I think we should be using those mental health facilities to try and keep the people who need mental health help out of jail as much as we can. It's very expensive to put people in jail. And if we can get them out so that they don't keep coming back, I think that's what we should be doing.
And you would direct these offenders to such facilities as allowable or available?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, because one of the things that does seem to work are the specialty courts, especially in those kinds of things, the sobriety court and the drug court. 14A doesn't have its own, but they can use the 15th District Sobriety Court or 14B Drug Court. They can cross the sign. And I think those are good things, and I think that they end up with better outcomes from everything I've read.
Well, thank you.
That's the first question I've ever had. So.
It's good practice, huh? Thank you for coming. Is there anyone else who would like to speak under non-arranged participation? I know, I didn't want to put Ray on. What was that? You might just Okay, we'll move on to communications.
Oh, I see.
There are 3 communications in the packet, our upcoming meeting list, the signed calendar, and a letter on the construction status from Dexter Community Schools. Any, Mr. Michelle's?
Yep. Just off the back end of the meeting calendar, Wednesday, June 27th, Cap Dart, or Dexter as I'd like to call it, is going to have its next meeting at which representatives of the RTA, the Regional Transit Authority, will be there. Alma Smith and Matt Webb, one of them is a tech person, one of them is kind of a policy person. So if you're not a regular person and you're interested in going, let me know so we can make sure we have enough seats for that. It was the night of the 3045 big reveal.
Right, no, well, that's got changed. So it's the 3045 Broad Street Committee, and the meeting will be at, I'm trying to remember.
5:30, I think.
5 or 5, no, 5:30, yeah, 5:30.
So if you're not there, you can get there on time if you're
Where's
at that committee. It's at the Lima Township office / Chelsea Area Construction Agency office / Wave office on Jackson just before it goes over I-94.
What time was the meeting again, Sam?
7 o'clock.
Thank you. That's the first time I've ever seen RTA being up this far.
I know.
Off this far, yeah. Yeah, for water.
Okay, other comments on the communications? Okay, we are down to our first report this evening, coming from our newly positioned head table of staff. Our Public Services Superintendent, Dan.
In your packet, I provided a 2-week report. I also have 3 updates for you. If you have any questions on my report.
The last item here is the 2x3-inch piece of metal that had gotten into a pump. How does that happen? Very last bullet.
I'm guessing it's some kind of construction debris from.
It just washes in then?
Oh, yeah, during construction somehow,
Okay.
and then we get excessive flows somehow,
Okay.
and then ended up getting down to the lift station.
Just trying to figure out how that could, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're trying to look into it. Right, so we think we might,
Might go.
Yeah, so we're gonna
Thank
ask
you.
them to help us with cleaning their lines and then also backing out of them.
Thank you.
Seeing no immediate further questions.
Last week, we started on the SAW grant with stormwater. We had Metro Sewer in here for a day and a half. We're going to be concentrating on Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays to work on the stormwater and the sewer aspect of the SAW grant. So this week, we're going to start on the sanitary sewer with Metro Sewer with televising and cleaning and jetting. I can't remember if it was last council meeting or the one before, we talked a little bit about the old bike shop on Baker and Dexter and I Road with a water leak. Well, over the weekend, let me back up. We were trying to get quotes because we thought maybe it was leaking underneath the road. Well, it came up on the sidewalk, which is on the property owner's side this weekend, so we shut that off. We got it to shut off the valve. So we're working with the property owner. When we got bids to go underneath the road and also to help the business owner out with getting a line into their building. So I called today to the business owner and gave him the contacts to the 2 bids that we have, and the water's off right now, and then he's gonna call those 2 contractors, and we're gonna work with him to fix that, get that fixed on his side. We had a bid opening for the wastewater treatment plant on May 30th. It went well. The only thing that we didn't get was a general trade. There was nobody that bid on that part of that. So F&B is going to work on that, and then we're hoping June 25th council meeting, we're going to have all the numbers together and have something for everybody to look at.
We actually opened those June 6th.
Pardon me?
We opened them June 6th.
I'm sorry, June 6th. I'm sorry.
What part wasn't bid then?
Pardon me?
What part wasn't bid? What did you say?
General trades.
General trades.
Yep.
It's about, supposed to be between $200,000 and $300,000 of the work.
They were estimating $350,000. Other than that, if you have any more questions, that's it for my updates.
I'm all set. Mr. Nelson, okay? Okay, we'll keep going.
Thank you.
Next up is our community development manager, Michelle.
Good evening, council. How are you this evening?
Good evening. Good, and you?
I'm fine, thank you. So you have my report in front of you. And normally what I would do is ask you if you had any questions before I go into the verbal updates. But this is a pretty detailed report on certain things, so I think I'm going to just kind of go through it with you, and please provide me with any feedback that you've got. So on the enforcement update, that house on Baker Road, it sits back off Baker Road, so it's behind those couple of houses in that apartment building, or toward the back. Excuse me. Normally, in this type of situation, I would work with the sheriff's department and we would issue a ticket. But that only works when the person or the entity, the person that is giving us this ticket is available for that. In this particular case, the responsible party, excuse me, doesn't live in the house anymore. The house is gone back to the bank, and the holding entity is out in Utah, so we can't really do a ticket. So in looking through files from when Allison was here and dealing with the house that was at 3075 Baker Road, when that had to be taken down, the way that was done was council held a show cause hearing, invited the property owner to come and attend that meeting and, excuse me, determine if the city needed to move forward with the prosecution so that they could go in and clean up or take down in that case, or be satisfied with the whatever proposal the property owner would make. While that was all happening, I actually had contact with the property management arm of the owner, and they've indicated that they will have everything taken care of, clean up all the violations by June 25th. Knowing how all of this kind of works, and I would love to believe that they'll get it all done, but in the chance that that doesn't, I'd like to have you give me some feedback on if you're comfortable scheduling a show cause hearing for your first meeting in July, so that we could get the notification out to that property owner, and they can have the proper representation here. If they don't show up, then the request from staff to you will be that you instruct the city attorney, which in this case would be Tom Stringer, to go forward and file for prosecution. If they do show up and present something that's satisfactory, we could cancel the show cause hearing and work with them to get this stuff cleaned up.
I move to schedule a show cause hearing for July 9th, 2018.
Second.
Moved by Michelle.
Probably should give the property.
Yep, for the property and the property owner has been outlaid in this report.
For July 9th, right?
Yep.
Second by Fisher, was it? Thank you both.
Could I ask you a question, Michelle?
Yes.
Michelle, is this the garage-like area that was a one-time part of a house that faces Baker? And it was separated off, or is it the one that came up, all of a sudden we found out there was a house back there?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's actually two houses. One
Kind of
is-
a garage-ish thing to begin with, and somebody converted?
I know, what I think it was it's an old cottage. It was an old cottage. It's never been hooked up to public water or sewer. It doesn't even have a septic system that the county even has on record, so, or the well. So,
How's it getting addressed then?
and
Who knows, right?
it is a viable property, has a tax ID number,
Okay.
and so that's the short answer. for
And the
how
assessed
it
value is?
Little. So, I hope that helps answer.
That's,
your
oh, that's
question.
good, thank you.
Thank you for the guidance.
Yeah,
on
Steve.
this.
Well, I grew up on the other end of
Complaining
that.
about it almost daily.
Knock it down.
Right, there's
Yes, I kind of know that area a bit.
On Baker Road, you know the sign that says hidden driveway?
Yes, I know, yeah, I know.
That's the hidden driveway.
Yep.
It's just it's an access easement to get to the couple properties that are back there.
Yep.
Like I said, there's two of them. One house is taken care of, the other one is in a substantial state of disrepair, so. Okay, any other questions on it?
Are they paying their taxes?
The bank is paying the taxes. As far as I know, everything is up to date, but that's not something I've looked at recently.
It was a mortgage foreclosure, not a bank, not a tax foreclosure.
Okay,
They have to vote.
so let me vote, yeah, let me. Any other questions on the motion?
Sure they were wrong.
Everybody's good on the motion? All right, Ms. Jones, call the vote on the scheduling of the show concert.
Smith,
Yes.
Tell,
Yes?
Cousins.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Knight.
Yes.
Michelle's.
Yes.
Keel.
Yes. Motion carries, okay?
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, just the Dexter Crossing signage, the HOA, now that it's gone from the developer builder to the homeowners, they've seated a board, and it's a fairly active board, and so they're looking at doing some things to make sure that the development is kept up nicely and has a good presence. And one of the things they've asked is about a sign on that Boulevard Island as you're coming onto Carrington off in Dexter and Upper Road. Excuse me. That is, Carrington Road, as you know, is public right-of-way. The island, though, does not have to be maintained by the city. It's a common element, general common element, and per the master deed and bylaws and the approved final site plan for phase 4, the homeowners association has to take care of it. And so they want to put a sign there. Provided that they meet visibility, the clear vision triangle, et cetera, and follow the code, they could have a sign there. And I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that. I don't know for sure that they will go forward with it, but it is something that they're actively looking at. Just to follow up on the 3045 Broad Street, the committee will meet on the 13th. We won't have the big reveal that day. The meeting will be at 5:30. I'm presuming it may run till 7 because this is the one where the Norfolk team will present not only their final concept or final 2 concepts, but they're also going to be going over the pro forma with the committee.
Oh, Michelle, we're not meeting on the 13th, we're
27th.
meeting
I'm
on
sorry.
the 27th. Your
Thank you.
report was done before everything changed.
Yep, the 27th. Thank you.
And July 10th is.
And July 10th will be the big reveal. So all of those emails have gone out. You'll get reminders. The email blast will go out this week according to Courtney, and the website has been updated. Brian Jeffries, signed the letter of intent with Don Darnell.
Is that what 8080 is?
That's what 8080 Grand is, and it's that back portion. He wants to get back to that small craft, artisanal, type of establishment. I've worked with Dan and his staff, given him the survey for what we call our industrial pretreatment program, as well as the PFAS that you all hear about. So he's filling those things out. Now, he has not signed a lease, but he signed a letter of intent, and part of it is to go through all this process. There will be a tap fee that will be involved, but we haven't calculated that yet because I don't have the exact square footage yet.
Is he leaving Jolly Pumpkin or just doing this?
No, I think this is just an addition.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything to the contrary. We received the application for interior remodel for 7275 Joy Road for Sonar Plastics. They've also been given their different IPP and PFAS surveys, and they've submitted the one with their application, and we're meeting tomorrow to go over site plan, or their floor plan, as well as the other application. Excuse me. Any questions on any of that or the toddler time before I go into the other updates? Okay, so I received a call from MDEQ this afternoon. They had been contacted by EPA regarding a complaint that was received by EPA. It was an anonymous complaint or confidential complaint about the developer at 150 Jeffords planning to store construction equipment in the park and on the banks of the Mill Creek River, or Mill Creek. So I spoke with both the MDEQ person as well as the person for EPA and followed up in an email identifying what the project is, where things will be situated, and that in no uncertain terms would the city ever allow construction equipment in their award-winning park, much less the banks of the Mill Creek. I hope they'll funnel that information, EPA will funnel the information to the complainant, hopefully, and they'll also let them know if they've got any additional comments to please contact the city, myself specifically, and we'll try to put or alleviate whatever concerns or fears that they may have.
You would have thought they would have called you first.
Yes, that would be preferred. So the other thing is this Friday, we've made arrangements with the Fillmore to hold a business breakfast, 8 o'clock in the morning. It's something that Dexter Community Schools and had sort of asked for us to work with them on as a way to get the information out to the businesses in the industrial park about the Dan Hoy Road improvements that the schools are doing, as well as the improvements that will occur right at the industrial park entrance. That's going to be talked about later on in your meeting tonight. But the meeting will start at 8, probably will be done by 9. It's supposed to be a quick in and out, but as a way to really get the businesses up to date on what's going on, give a chance for them to ask questions. Greg Brandt from Granger will be there. Coley O'Brien and his GM, Matt, who I don't know his last name, were very receptive to working with us and holding it at the Fillmore. So I think it'll help both of us. It'll be good for both of us. That's it. I don't have any other updates unless you want to ask me some questions.
Mr. Dunn?
We've often had discussion when Joe was on the council about these clothes bins. Now, the one behind the mill, it's got to be coming on 2 weeks now. Where their stuff just, I don't know who ripped the lock off, I don't know if it's just all over the parking lot. But it goes right down a truck route, you know, because I come right down 3rd and I shoot around here going uptown every day. So I'm just, I don't know if we can contact the property owner, I don't know if we have to call 313, I don't know if I gotta set it on fire.
So one of the things, I've toyed with this since I first got here and I've had conversations with Doug. Currently under our ordinance, the way I interpret it is that would be an accessory detached structure. And a property owner would need to, excuse me, would need to go through a permit process, zoning compliance, etc. I haven't pursued it much because there hasn't been enough time. But it's certainly something that we can look at. I would love to look at it and work with the planning commission. It'd be extensive enforcement because they need to identify every bin on every property and then let
I don't mind the bins that are closed. I don't even mind the ones that are open with their stuff strewn all over the ground.
Okay, then I can probably do that through regular enforcement with the property owner.
I can't believe they don't notice it.
I think part of them,
Yeah.
they're kind of divorced from it because they don't, most of the time they end up on somebody's property and they haven't even asked and people don't care because they're not using that part of their property. It's a goodwill kind of thing. But I have not seen it, but I will go out and I'll check it.
That road is rough enough without me having a look at that stuff.
Okay.
Ms. Fisher?
Yeah, when I brought this up some time ago, the way I believe that it was handled was that if it was on us, we asked the mill at one time to please put it on your own property. So if we approached it, if it's on us, and could they please move it, would that not solve the problem?
For the one that Mr. Tell's talking about?
Yeah.
So it sounds like there's two issues. One, this one isn't secure and contents are spilling out, right?
Yes.
The other is if it's in the road right of way. So the answer to your question is yes. The answer to Mr. Tell's is it's an enforcement. Okay.
Well, if it's in the road right away, I just,
We
if you're
should-
going down there with a forklift, pick it up
and move it. Except that we probably have a few in the DPW yard. So we'll get it, we'll get it.
Leave
One
stuff
way or
in
the
my
other,
right
it's
of way, it's
enforcement.
garbage.
Yep.
Okay, further questions for Michelle? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're down to the wave report. Mr. Cousin?
I was sorry, I put some papers here and I was ahead of the ball here.
No problem.
When we had our budget discussions, you asked a number of questions and they were ably answered here. One of the questions you asked was what other units of government participated, and they are all listed here. You'll see that the far majority of them are involved in that process there. And with what I understood was that all units of government, including the city as we discussed it, gave what they call their fair share. Okay? Yeah. And you also asked for the financial statements and the audit, and that says 16, 17. The other one was not approved because there was a question about an item, and so that's there. I think that took care of it. We have two contracts. Those were forwarded to Courtney, and she has those, and she said they were included on our next agenda, correct?
Yeah, they'll be consent
I think
agenda.
that
We've been
answers
doing them by
quite
consent.
everything that you asked during that period of time, okay?
Mr. Collins, does that include Scioto Township?
Scioto has their own agreement with
Because they have a millage
the
now.
village process for their process.
And our contribution goes under the municipal support line item, is that correct?
Yeah, I think ours was like 43.50, or I forgot the number right now. Increased up from 37 we had last year.
I'm just trying to make sense of the numbers. One second, I can answer those questions offline, it's okay.
Well, those are commitments for next fiscal year. The amounts in Michael Lee's email are the commitments for next fiscal year,
Yes.
right? So they wouldn't have necessarily been reflected in Wake's 2018 adopted budget.
No,
because they would have been out of
correct,
that.
correct.
Is it calendar year? It's calendar year, right?
Yeah.
Other questions on the wave? Okay, we're down to city manager's report. Thanks, Paul, for doing that, and bringing the information back.
I just basically have two updates on item L, under, I think it's number 4, the truck sale. So we have posted 2 of our trucks that we don't need anymore, we've had for a while, on a website, and we've gotten bids on each of them, so it seems to be working. The bids aren't due until like around the 25th, 26th. So hopefully that, and they do have to come and pick it up themselves. So hopefully that gets us cleaned out of trucks that we don't need. Generally, we've been trading them in, but these were kind of before we started doing that as a habit. So we were happy to see we were actually getting some bids. The other item is the Washtenaw County Waste Authority. I attended their formation, one of their meetings, and that group's actually been meeting for a while. But it's basically like 3 tiers of involvement in potentially forming an authority. And the first tier is sort of marketing and technical assistance that the county would provide for different municipalities in the county, that basically the eastern portion of the county, that want to participate to help with, contractual language or information on recycling, just any sort of technical and marketing assistance is kind of the tier 1 level. And then the tier 2 level of participation is they're trying to standardize rules and locations of drop-off sites. So a lot of the townships use those when they don't have curbside, but then we also use them for like household hazardous waste days the county has, or electronic waste, those sorts of things, styrofoam, trying to make places that anyone can go to. And then the third level is the potential creation of a material recovery facility, or as they call it, so that the recycled materials could be taken from Washington County, could be taken to this facility and processed locally, which is different than now. The Ann Arbor MRF hasn't been opened, so a lot of stuff's getting trucked out of state, which increases everybody's cost. So I've just been attending the meetings to kind of see how it's going. Ann Arbor's involved, and Pittsfield and Saline and different communities, like I said, more on the east side, because there's also the Western Washington Recycling Authority that already exists. It's sort of the west side of the county. Justin's going to attend a tour of Troy's new MRF, and that's used by 13 communities in Oakland County. So he's going to go check out that facility tomorrow as part of this group.
Is there still a market for MRF product?
Well, that's another thing. I guess MEDC and the DEQ have been working on trying to figure out ways to encourage use of recycled materials in business ventures.
I mean, 90% used to go to China, and they...
Right, and they don't want it anymore.
No,
And
they
the
don't
reason
want
that it's not really that they don't want it, is that they want it to have an under like 1%
Sure.
Contamination rate. And a lot of our stuff is like 30% contaminated. And so it's basically like sending them our garbage, and they don't like that. And so the same thing is true with industry that uses recycled materials. Sure. They might want, let's say, 5%, which is a little more reasonable. But if we could, let's say we open this MRF and we had an idea of that we were going to have this much glass or this much plastic, then you could have industry that could rely on it. Because right now it's hard to open a business if you can't rely on the material. So it kind of feeds into each other in that way. And if we had a stable stream of it, we might be able to do more to get end users of it. So it's an interesting
The JIT with no guarantee of raw material. Like, it's just in time you're guaranteeing this much, but if you don't...
Right, if you don't have it, that's why, exactly, and that's why it's hard to get people to kind of go into that business. So the more local, municipal, or material recovery facilities you have, you can promise them, okay, this is how much we see, and because you have multiple communities, it kind of balances out. We might have more glass one week than Pittsfield, but it all balances out because we're doing it together. So I'm gonna keep attending the meetings to see what benefit it might be to be involved. The other thing they talk about is standardizing what's recycled in the county. So if you move from Ann Arbor to Dexter to Pittsfield, you're recycling the same.
Right.
You can recycle the same items, and you're not always having to figure out can I recycle this, can I recycle that? And teaching people more about contamination and don't just put everything, like that shouldn't be the default. It should really be things can be recycled, not just, that might be recycled, I'm gonna throw it in there. That isn't really the way that it should be. You should know what you're putting in there is eligible, so that it's not contaminating the waste stream. So, it's an interesting one.
I'd just like to comment about the concrete work there on Hudson Street.
Okay.
With the new bump out for trying the mailbox. Did an excellent job on that. It's very nice now to be able to actually pull off the road.
Right.
So,
Michael Andrews has been concrete. I mean, it's the first time we've used them, and Michael Andrews Concrete, that's the first time we've used them. They did that work there, and they've done well at tearing things up and then pouring fairly quickly, not tearing up everything and then pouring everything. It's been nice. Like today, they even poured the same day, which is really unheard of.
And then the sidewalks on the other corner are looking better than they did before.
Well, it's been restored now, at least with the seed and grass, seed and straw, and hopefully they'll actually have a lawn and they can move on from that. So, and that's also an item about Grand Street, talking about that later on. But thank you. Oh, and the roundabouts, I don't know if anyone had any feedback on the landscaping, or if anyone had any thoughts about that, but we'll have to move.
Green ones.
We'll have to move forward with that eventually to figure out what we want to do there, so maybe I'll make that a discussion item.
They believe that roundabout will support greenery?
In the center, yeah, and it's not, were you here when I passed that, right? Yeah, so.
I say that's off center.
So everything in here is mountable, and then this is the area that shouldn't need to be mounted. That's why it's so small, is because there's a possibility of other parts of it getting mounted, but yeah, these middle sections should not be needed to be driven over.
It's such a harsh environment.
Yeah, that's why everything they pick should be, is things that don't require a lot of irrigation. I mean, Mill Creek Park isn't irrigated, and, you know, things survive there, yeah, so.
We'll see.
Yeah.
If they can get them started, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Get them going, and then they usually are fine.
You know, that's rock hard.
So what do you know about the letter from Peter's building?
That was my question.
That is what I know.
Did you talk to anybody from Sile?
I did.
I saw Bryce at that meeting, and he knew about it, and he knew that Peters was planning to withdraw the request. So.
Does that mean he's figuring out what to do there?
It sounded like possibly. Bryce didn't get specific on what, but it sounded like he was going to move forward with something in SIO.
Can you just remind me, or anybody, the number of homes they could put in if he...
Around 200.
In SIO?
Ish.
And under R was 340 or something like that?
Like 400-ish.
Well,
We never really approved it, but that was how many he thought he could
Exactly.
make.
Right, we didn't do a calculation.
So the difference is 200, about 200, okay? And he has to do that, he has to develop some kind of a self-contained wastewater plant, correct?
Well, maybe he sold it for green space.
Yeah, I don't know. I
That
mean,
kind of went by the way.
that was the thought that we had, because we had heard that it didn't perk, for septic fields, but I don't know that for fact.
Well, I'm concerned about it for a variety of reasons, that does happen, and I told him straight to his face that as a member here of the Watershed Council, I would be actively opposing that concept, and I can tell you right now that the Ann Arbor and probably the Michigan chapters of the Trout Unlimited will be also very, very opposed to that, since it's now developing into one of the best trout streams in the whole state. People are catching trout out of there and coming from hundreds of miles away just to fish there. Okay, so and then it flows through our park. So I think there's a lot of reasons for that to be considered not a decent action. But I guess we'll wait and see what happens here. I'm just throwing a shot across the bow, I guess, that I hope we stand strong.
When operated properly, there's nothing wrong with one of those, just so you know.
Yes, when operated properly, that's the key term.
Well, we have the same responsibility.
What's that?
We have the same
We
responsibility.
do, and we're a municipality that has done an excellent job with that. It's also part of the whole phosphorus addition to that space, which we, as well know, we participate in as well.
Maybe the trout like phosphorus.
I know the plants don't.
So I guess my question is, do we need to install the sewer extension?
I mean, just because this isn't happening doesn't mean that nothing's ever going to happen, We're just installing an extension to get it out of the roundabout, so that if something did have to be connected there, it wouldn't need to be torn up.
Oh, that's. Can you go over the traffic control now?
Yeah, I just wanted to put together something so we were handling them, not necessarily researching them, because I think we know how we're doing that, but what to do to actually implement them. And So, that was why, so I'm gonna take what OHM researched for me and create a policy that just says what. Yeah, I mean, it surprises me that council has to approve them if they're permanent, because I feel like, does the city of Ann Arbor council approve every stop sign and whatever in Ann Arbor? But I mean, I guess maybe they do, so if that's the way that it has to be, I just wanna make sure that we put up new things or even verify what we have up, that, you know, they're being handled correctly.
Well, I think it's awkward if somebody just says, I want this traffic to stop in my neighborhood because I want to slow the
Well, right, and
traffic.
that's why we do the study and stuff. I just didn't,
Exactly.
you know, I mean, everything needs a TCO, like no parking signs or speed limit signs or, you know, lots of different things. So it's just interesting that that's required. So I just wanted to confirm that.
Now, you
So
remember
that moving forward, we can follow it.
how the stop sign got
At the end of my
put in
street,
it? Yeah,
and
well,
at both ends of my street.
yeah,
On Grand and
On
on
Forest.
Inverness.
Forest.
So Forest doesn't stop
There
there.
was a council person lived down there, and wanted it, and got it, it's like,
Oh, at the other end, yes,
Yeah.
that's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking about at the top of the hill.
yeah, I know.
And we've done better at, you know, making sure everything has a warrant. It's just now the warrant leads to the traffic control order.
Now they
How
have
do we want to
warrants,
do
yes.
that process?
There weren't back then.
So the site plan process doesn't
I do remember, yes, I do.
supersede
Forgot to
this?
say.
Well, the site plan process would be approved by council. The site plan would count as being approved by council. That's why like the Dexter Crossing
AJ Hale.
signage that was approved as part of the site plan, that's council approved.
Right, okay.
Good memory.
So I was trying to go back to the open paragraph about questions about existing signs.
Right, so anything, I don't know that council approved necessarily things that have been put in the downtown area that weren't part of the site plan.
Okay, then, all right. This starts off by saying we're working on proper signage in Dexter Crossing and Grand Farm Zone.
Right, we changed the roundabout signage in Huron Farms, and we didn't have, town council didn't approve that. So those don't technically have TCOs, because that was some project we did separate to change the roundabout signage.
We just upgraded them, didn't we?
Well, we changed them.
It's not like we
If
did
you
signs
see stop
now.
control,
Yeah, we changed them to make them compliant with current roundabout signage. They don't look the same as they did. Now, the Dexter Crossing signs we added would be consistent because those were approved by council by virtue of the site plan. It was these issues that made us look into it.
But I mean, okay. But I mean, all those signs originally were added by site plan approval. I mean, it's up to us to keep up with the current. Right? Did we just make them current?
Yeah, I
So
guess.
I
but
don't understand. Okay. I
Well,
don't
that's
understand.
why I'm gonna do a policy and then council can dive into that.
Okay. Anyone update us on the SAR grant?
I don't really have any more information on what's in there.
We're on track?
Yeah, we have till November or October of 2019, so a year from October, so. Next will be the asset management software. We're talking about that on Wednesday. That purchase.
I might be interested in an map of where we're televising.
Okay, I got that. Okay.
Just curious.
Yeah, I think you had that, because you had that in the past, but I can provide it again. It was in the bid documents that you asked for. When you asked me to see the bid documents.
All right, I'll go. We haven't changed?
No.
Anything else? Okay, I just want to remind everybody that I have made reappointment recommendations. The only one I was not able to talk to directly was Paul regarding the tree board, but I see no reason not to reappoint him if he decides to change his mind. Everybody else I was able to hear back from. So just a reminder that that is on the consent agenda. Any questions for me? Okay, I just want to make one comment related to our facility workshop earlier in the day. I asked the question at the workshop and didn't really get a response from anybody, but $6 million for that facility is a lot of money. And it's a lot more than I think is necessary to solve the problems that we have there. I've talked about the response time issue of moving the station to that location. On the surface, if this concept fails on the two things that we're trying to primarily be responsible for, which is cost and service. And I think, I know we'll have additional workshops to discuss next steps, but I ask you all to think about that because those are huge, it's a huge amount of money. And if you ask the average citizen, there isn't that big a problem with our fire service. Some of those things, I appreciate the sentiment on, separation of decontamination areas and making sure the firefighters have a chance to get healthy and clean. I'm all for all that. But all that can be done for much, 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 much less than is on that piece of paper and in that current plan. So, I won't take up all the time, but I don't have a council comment section at the end, so I'm saying it today, but that has to be, we have to do something different. That's too much to put in front of the voters. And that's particularly now, it doesn't even consider a plan for city offices, which I still think is the more pressing issue relative to day-to-day service. But I'll go on the consent agenda.
I move we approve the 4 items listed on the consent agenda. Excuse me. Bills and payroll in the amount of $166,746.24. The reappointment used by Mayor Keough for Planning Commission, ZBA, Parks, Arts and Culture, Tree Board, Downtown Development Authority, Economic Development Corporation, and the consideration of setting the public hearing on June 25th for the DTE land sale and road closures on Main, Jefferson Central for Dexter Days.
Moved by Ms. Fisher. Second by Mr. Smith. Thank you both. All those in favor of approving the 4 items on the consent agenda, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Okay, we have no old business. We have 8 new business items in front of us after the addition on the agenda. The first one is consideration of the scope of services from OHM for Central Street reconstruction from 3rd Street to 5th Street for not to exceed amount of $73,000.
Make a motion, we approve that.
Moved by Smith,
Second.
second by Michelle. Thank you both. Let's see if there's any council questions first. Any immediate, Mr. Coates?
Well, I guess that something still kind of sticks in my craw when we went and made the construction from the bridge to 3rd Street now. We still have a bump there. I thought that OHM was supposed to correct that years ago. And I don't think it's done. Am I incorrect in that?
Where's the bump hole?
Right at 3rd Street?
I mean, in the street?
In Center Street.
Where the old meets the new.
Yeah. I remember that was a discussion that we
You
had.
mean closer to 2nd Street, right?
Yeah. No, that's right before Thursday. At Thursday, yeah, right in the middle. Right in the middle.
Right, we know there's a bump on Central Street. We talked about fixing it in conjunction with this project. Having it milled down.
So my question is that going to happen during this process, and who's paying for that part when I thought that we all had concluded that that was the problem of the design and the construction? Am I wrong in that?
If it's the bump, I'm thinking, it's closer to Second. The one at Third, the bump at Third Street to me is where the existing transitions to the new.
So that will be fixed as part of this.
I mean, that will obviously be fixed because that's
Where transit.
where the transition. By the crosswalk, right?
Yeah. Right across. Because I remember, wasn't there a discussion, didn't we have this discussion, or am I reading?
Yeah, no, it was about the bump is at Second Street, Patrick? You know about the.
Yeah, it's between the 2012 project and 2014 project. There was supposed to be a seamless connection between those two, and during construction, it was not built the correct way. There was a bump there, and we, at that time, had acknowledged it, and it is still something that we will see to that it is corrected. I think we have some responsibility in that, for sure. in terms of-
Some responsibility?
We have responsibility relative to the costs, how it was constructed and how it will be repaired.
And can I just ask a question, whether it would happen during the same construction time, or was it?
Yeah, we talked about doing it as part of this project, so that, because someone will be there anyway on Central to
Good. Okay, other questions? Related to the scope of services? Courtney, Patrick, anything to add?
If I could just talk through the project just a little bit, some of the high-level things to note about what we're trying to achieve with this project. This is kind of the last portion of a project that was really developed from concept starting in 2009. As I just mentioned, 2012 we built the first phase from the Mastro Bridge to just beyond railroad tracks. 2014 we picked up from there, took it around to 3rd Street, and kind of set the stage for a modification of the truck route. Obviously the trucks now, or for a long time, have used Broad Street and 3rd Street to Central, so that will remain the major truck route. This particular project is federal aid eligible, and we'll be getting a fairly substantial amount of funding for it through the Surface Transportation Program funding source. But this will really be obviously we'll design it for the appropriate vehicle loads, but really this is getting more intended to be more of a road segment for everybody. When we look at this segment, we're going to have parking on both sides, parallel parking. The ditches will be removed and replaced with curb and gutter, grass lawns back to the sidewalks. Sidewalks are already there for the most part. So there'll be some ADA tweaks at the various intersections. 5th Street, 4th Street, 3rd Street will remain as is, more or less, besides the tie-in points. And then stormwater is kind of a big issue in this area. We're going to try to pick up we will pick up some of the issues that are still lingering on 4th Street. They really have been kind of more of a historical drainage situation where the water comes down 4th Street, and right now it just goes to a series of dry wells, which take advantage of the infiltration rates of underlying soils. But what our hope is to do is kind of create a more sustainable solution relative to managing kind of the peak flow events when we get the really big rain events. We're going to convey that stormwater from the 4th and Central Street intersection down Central Street, and then there's a stub that we'll construct basically down 5th Street along the sides of the road to provide a connection of stormwater from 5th Street all the way down to the intersection of Broad. There was a 36-inch storm that was built probably 12, 13 years ago, so we'll tie into that. Other elements, decorative lighting will be included along the corridor. We'll continue the existing luminaire style that you see right now on Central Street. Plan right now is to include decorative crosswalks at all the intersections. This will be an asphalt road, so we'll have concrete paver bands either side of that, decorative concrete in the middle, and then asphalt either side. All new construction will be going all the way down to the base material to construct the new pavement section. One other element that we included back in 2009 design was a consideration for green stormwater infrastructure. So what's proposed under this proposal is to do stormwater infiltration underneath the parking areas. At that time, back in 2009, it was discussed that we would use porous pavers either side of the kind of through lanes. And what that allows us to do is kind of further reduce the amount of impact relative to stormwater generation on this project by using the parking lanes as an area to collect and infiltrate that stormwater into the underlying materials. We generally find that there's fairly positive soils in these areas, a real feasible option. Lastly, the bike lanes would be continued through there. And our intent is really, as we come into town on Central Street, right as we make the curve towards the park, is really where the limits will stop. We'll tie into existing curve, and so that become kind of a match point. We basically paved through that curve in 2014 with the mill and overlay. So really you'll have a new asphalt pavement really all the way into town coming in from the north side. So that's kind of a high level view. Existing utilities, if there's any sort of kind of lingering relative issues relative to the sanitary, we can look at those as part of the work. Certainly televising lines that might happen across this project area would be an activity we can work through under SAW. And the water main was actually constructed in 2000, I think it was 2004. So it's relatively new water main, so we really don't need to do any work on that. We'll reach out to gas, electric, all the other utilities to make sure that there's anything they need to do ahead of time. But really our schedule says that we'll get started here immediately. And we're going to follow more or less the same schedule we did for Ann Arbor Street and Central Street in 2014, where we're really turning in final plans right around the November timeframe. And our hopes to then is basically bid this sometime February, March timeframe, so we get a decent bid, hopefully, and then we can really hit the ground running as soon as the crosswalks come off in early April. This particular segment, because of the fact it's not on the truck route, we can really basically isolate it other than local traffic for the residents. We would hope to close it and encourage the contractor to move through as quickly as possible. And it's reasonable to think we can get this done within a couple months, really, start to finish. That's kind of our overview. If there's any other questions, feel free.
Questions? Appreciate the update. Okay, please call the vote to approve the scope of services.
Fisher?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Cousins?
No.
Knight?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Tell?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes. Motion carries. New business item L2, which is a discussion of engineering.
Yes, this is a discussion now. So we have been working with OHM to put together some relatively minor updates to the engineering standards. Just changing village to city is one, and then other things that are outlined in the package. So if anybody has any questions or whatever we need more information on for the future, I guess, for next meeting.
I second that motion, and I just feel like there's a lot of stuff in here I think we can get time to read.
That's fine. It's really not a rush. It's just we were trying to get it done.
I just needed to have to vote on it, and I had to really read. So
Yep, that's fine.
that was what motivated mine.
Put it in there again.
Mr. Michelle?
For consideration, I'll bring a couple of observations. I see that references zoning office, but I believe we references community development office, so I'm not sure if we want to be consistent or if that's too much of a nitpicky thing. I don't have the whole thing here, but I see that we do require tracing wire, and I'm curious if we require as-built or certification that is built according to the plans.
Yeah,
That's
I
all
didn't
done.
include the whole.
Good. Yep. Let's see. For the general requirements of site plans, for discussion, requiring also digital plans be submitted. I know lots of folks do it now, but it'd be good to have it in there just to make them understand that we're expecting to get that digital copy. And perhaps this may be a bit too nitpicky, but also if it says that they have to be folded plans, that saves a lot of time for staff.
And the application that actually says they have to be zoning ordinance, it says that.
Okay. Then we're already covered. Thank you.
Okay, so can we have staff put this back on the next agenda, or is that okay, everybody, or other question?
Do you have a specific comment, Jim?
No, the same as Don, just didn't have enough time to absorb what was being changed, so.
I do have one more that I didn't catch as I was going through here. I believe it references certificate of occupancy, but the city doesn't issue those. The Washtenaw County Building Department it does, so we don't necessarily have control over that. Now, in theory, they're not supposed to do that until we do the zoning certificate, but it may be better if we say zoning certificate of compliance and building occupancy, wherever that's in there.
Yeah, we can find that, because I think we fixed that in the zoning ordinance, so we can make sure we fix it here.
Okay, okay, move on to L3. L3 is consideration of the fee schedule.
I'll move that motion.
Second. Moved by Fisher,
Spell that out.
second by,
Resolution add and update fee schedule for the city of Madison.
any discussion or questions? Mr. Jones?
So, kind of a question for the whereases. My understanding is we've had a bunch of different resolutions here and there where we adopted these fee schedules. Do we need to include a clause that says where those previous resolutions where they conflict with this are legal? I don't know if that's too nitpicky because the assumption is we've adopted this, we need to do that. But the other thing that I would offer for discussion is the ZBA fee hasn't changed, but we are including per diem, and the $250 and $350 that we charge is lower than the surrounding community that I'm very aware of. So I would throw for discussion upping that by $50 each. That's on page 146.
Can you give us some examples of what goes on around this?
Dexter Township is $450.
Okay.
And
You're talking the residential?
for anything. And it actually costs north of $480 to process.
So you recommend changing it to 300 and 400?
Yep.
Okay.
I missed what,
ZBA. What page is that?
CBA.
146.
146, CBA. Got it, thank you.
So are the makers of the motion, Fisher and Smith, and
Yes.
seconder, okay with the
I want
whereas? What do you think about the whereas?
We'll just say, we can just say something like this supersedes any past resolution or something to that effect.
So which amounts are we changing?
Just the 146, the residential, non-residential DBA, the very last things on the list, the 300, 400.
I just want those costs really covered.
Right. And we do want to do, further study on all of our planning and zoning costs to be able to do with the new one.
I'm fine with the change.
Just curiosity, how many non-residents come in for the road notary fee?
A lot.
Quite
A lot.
a few.
How about a few?
Yeah.
Unbelievably, yes. Because the bank won't do it, so they send them up to us.
The bank doesn't.
Correct.
But-
The bank will only
not
do it for
that.
banking documents. The bank won't do it for a will or a mortgage, and those are the worst when they do mortgages, because there's like 20, but.
Okay,
yeah.
so,
But on that note, since the last time you saw this, we did add a little language about taxpayers and taxpayers being lumped in with residents. So the idea being that like a business owner would also qualify for
free.
free services.
And the second question is the increase in recycle bins, is that because the price of the recycle bins have gone up?
No, we don't pay for them through Waste Management, but I mean, all of our costs of Waste Management have gone up, so it's just another way to defray that. Plus, people don't have to buy them, you can just get a sticker and use your own can. So you have a viable option if you don't want to buy one. Waste Management provides those to us.
So you can really put in anything that they can throw into their truck. You just put a sticker on it,
Yep.
and we provide the sticker, right?
Yes, for free.
But I mean, I think the bins are kind of baked into our costs.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, please call the vote.
Tell,
Yes.
Michelle's,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Excuse me, motion carries. New business item L4, discussion of taping of council meetings.
Justin put together this
Yeah, I'll-
information, so I guess I don't really have much more to say, but I'm only saying some things.
Yeah, I met with Councilmember Michelle since the last time we talked about this topic, and he walked me through what Dexter Township does, which is live stream and upload to the live stream site. And that's where they keep and host their copies of meeting videos. So it seems like a viable option as long as the internet in here cooperates.
One of the reasons I want to just kind of hold off on this for a little bit, because we're getting ready to start looking at revisions to the website, possibly a brand new website. And yes, we do need to get some policies in place. And they find in exploring that with the different vendors, that there may be some services along the lines of providing, or at least hosting the videos and stuff that would be produced. So, that's going to happen in the next few months. And so I thought it'd be good to just kind of hold off on this for a little bit while we, explore that, going, what's happening there in that area with the web environment, and see how this could be maybe merged together. Because there may be some opportunities there from the different vendors.
It's okay, right?
Do you have a timeline when that's going to be done? I just would hope so.
I think the way that I initially envisioned it was linking to a separate site. So I feel like any hosting on our site would require keeping and holding the videos on our network, which could eat up a lot of space.
There's a lot of various technology out there, and so I just want that opportunity to see if there is somebody does offer a common service that provides us a website and, the video, so.
The website bids are due on June 15th. The website bids are due on June 15th, so we'll at least,
What's that bid?
Yeah,
yeah, they're due on June 15th, so I mean, they're due soon.
thank you.
End of the week.
Yeah, or 3 days.
Ms. Fisher?
Because we have a paper record, how long are you expecting and how are you expecting us to keep videos of meetings?
So we're only required to keep them until minutes are approved, basically.
Right, so
So it's really up to.
the storage issue is basically a moot point.
Well, if it depends on council's preference.
Okay.
If we want to keep them indefinitely, that is an option as long as, if we do decide to go with a separate hosting site, then the indefinite timeline is only as good as that website is good. We can also, take the route of eliminating the videos after the minutes are approved.
It seems like then we have to decide what we want to use them for. Because if it's really to get the information out, we will have done that. And then what happens to them after that, we're going to have to set some goals for ourselves or some objective as to what we do with it then.
That's a valid question.
How to
Yeah.
store, what to store.
I mean, some, by the government have gone to, the live broadcast or, on cable and stuff.
They're just gone.
Yeah, I mean, people who can't get to the meetings can tune in and see it. Watch on cable or online. So that, those are options too that probably should be discussed.
So I've been in some way or another broadcasting public meetings where I worked for 10 years now, give or take. And as a staff member, I cannot tell you the satisfaction of slapping a DVD down on the judge's desk and saying, they said they're going to do something or not do something, and you can hear them in their own voice do it.
So how far back do people keep them? Or
Yeah.
how do you keep them?
So the service that was mentioned in here, there are a couple of big ones, live stream, Ustream. They keep it on their machines, and it's up there as long as you're a member, as long as your account is good.
Okay.
So Northfield Township has it going back 8 years or plus. Dexter Township has it going back 5 years almost now.
So you've been keeping them since you started taping them,
Yeah.
right?
And so another nice thing with staff is when you have zoning board of appeals or planning commission, people who come to those are usually very nervous because they've never spoken in front of a public body. Apparently we're very frightening. And they don't know what to say and they don't know what to do. So I will often tell them, watch a couple of videos ahead of time so you can see the flow and what sort of questions they ask. And that will help. And also, actually, the very last meeting I had, there were 2 or 3 neighbors of a petition who were out of town and were able to watch it. And so that kind of put them at ease that they were able to see what was going on in this very exciting public meeting.
Okay, so the suggestion is to wait until after the website process is at least evaluated, right? Or bring it back? Or wherever, or go from there? Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, move on. L5 is consideration of an increase to the 2018 sidewalk project budget.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Cousins,
Second.
second by Smith.
So at this point, we're really just asking for the 7,200 for Grand Street, I think. Justin, have you heard from the library about the library sidewalk?
I have not. We're still waiting on a line item quote from Michael Andrews.
Okay, so that's, we can deal with later if we need to. So right now, it would just be the mailbox. We talked about moving a set of the mailboxes instead of to the Hudson Street bump out to Grand Street. And staff recommended adding a concrete bump out, which Dan can speak to better than I can. But the cost exceeds the approval. It would be about $7,200 to do that. So that would be what we'd be looking for today, so that Michael Andrews can work on that when he's doing other intersection work.
You want like up to like 7,500 or something?
It should be fine with the 72, because I have some wiggle room in those.
Where the new mailboxes are going, there's a precast sewer manhole there that we can't change the height of the lid of the manhole because it's all concrete. A lot of times your brick, or they'll have concrete or brick added to them, and you can get rid of that to get that down where it needs to be. So when talking to Michael Andrews, we were talking about starting the curb there for the bump in for the mailbox and keep that on the backside that would kind of protect that from snow plows or people running off the edge of the road. I don't know if you've ever noticed that mailbox down there. So if we do the bump in with, the mailboxes, they'll kind of take care of that sewer manhole too. And keep that in the inside of the curb.
Okay, so the motion by Cousins, second by Smith, increase the 2018 sidewalk project budget by $7,200.
What was the original estimate of the price of these connected with the library there? You said it's right now it's
I want to say it
9,000.
was 5,200-ish, 6,000.
Yeah, I think it was about 6,200 was the initial estimate that was not binding. But Mike Landry's came back with a quote of
9,300.
9,300.
Did the air station make any difference in that process?
That was just a slab. I think part of it is just that they have to haul the concrete differently. They can't drive the truck there, right? So they have to haul the concrete there differently. Plus, we didn't really have a lot of new sidewalk in the bid. It was a lot of replacements. So, that's why we asked him. He just gave us a lump sum, so we don't know exactly where he was calculating to the 9,300. But the library was going to pay for half minus that slab, obviously, because we chose, and the slab for the picnic table. So we wanted to make a handicap accessible picnic table.
Right.
Because we have a handicap accessible picnic
Right.
table that's just sitting, that we can't use.
Middle of
Yeah, it's just, well, no, it's sitting in the DPW because
Right.
we need concrete to get a handicap person to it.
And the 7,200 comes out of which fund?
That would probably just come out of the major streets, Grand Streets and major streets,
Okay, grand is.
I think.
So it's either major or local.
Yeah. I'm not even sure if it would be this year or next year necessarily, but it would be one of the two. Because he's going to definitely cross over into fiscal years.
Thank you. Other questions? Your hand's not up, right? Please call the vote.
Knight,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Cousins, Tell,
Yes.
Michelle.
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. New business item L6, extension of the crack seal contract with Wolverine Seal Coating in an amount not to exceed $20,000.
So moved.
Support?
By Smith, second by Cousins, I think I heard.
Yes.
So we finished our $13,000 worth of work this fiscal year, and we didn't get quite as far as we hoped. So we'd like to keep going, and Wolverine seemed to indicate they'd be able to put us on their schedule soon, so that we're not running into fall, which I don't like to do anymore. Did you get something on that, Dan?
Yeah, I got an update. I'm sorry I didn't
That's okay.
use the time. They said that they could schedule us for August 1st.
Okay, that's
All at
fine.
5 o'clock tonight.
That works. So we can get the rest of the work done at that time.
Okay, any comments by council? We budgeted this and...
Yeah, for next year, yeah.
Same, yeah. Okay, please call the vote.
Cousins,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Tell,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Motion carries. New business item L7, discussion of meeting minutes.
So a few months ago, staff attended a clerks conference at which a professional person well-versed in Robert's Rules of Order and relevant laws came and gave a presentation. And staff wanted to provide that information since there had been in the past some discussion of what should and should not be incorporated into the city council minutes. And functionally what she said is that the minutes are a reflection of the action taken, not necessarily what was discussed. But there was the caveat of each community does their own minutes differently, and in many cases, information that is added is successful. But ultimately, we wanted to present City Council with that information and offer some options if City Council had any interest in pursuing a route of reducing the information or what was contained in the minutes to cut back on discussion in the minutes.
Here, I've heard it for a while. for this community. Excuse me, for several different groups, as a matter of fact. What always was hammered into my head every time I went to something as clerk is that when you have extra material in the minutes, you're putting yourself out there for liability for things that you don't need to have it out there. You need to have a record of what actually takes place, but the rest of it, how you got there is immaterial, that you keep your record. I went to this same person that presented about 2 years ago on behalf of the city. Zach put the workshop together at that time. Didn't you do it?
Yep.
Yeah, it was excellent. So I'm glad that you got to hear her because she was in the process of getting ready to sit on the committee to update Robert's rules. So she certainly knows what she was talking about. So I would like us to see us do something different than what we're doing now with all the extra stuff.
Well, it's not something that has to be decided on, necessarily today, it's just putting the information out there, and then I guess you guys have to decide how you want it, if you want to, somebody's gonna make a motion in the future to change it, or if we just talk about it and do it. I mean, I don't, that's all up to you, really.
Because, I mean, ultimately, it's up to the clerk and the recording secretary to take the minutes, but the minutes have to be approved by city council, so there's a little bit of simpatico there.
Well, you've given us 3 options. So that one, we do nothing, do this, or do this. And so maybe we could ponder that and come back with an opinion. If you could make a motion based on option 1, option 2, option 3.
My only comment is, you really lose a lot when you take all that stuff out.
It's in the rest of your reports, though.
I hear what you say, Sean.
I don't know if that's true, Donna. I don't know that it's all in there. I said you lose a lot when you take when you jump to options 2 and 3. I mean, I suppose you could say you don't lose anything, but I mean, on page 170 of the packet, just a simple comment. Judy Brown, 2845 Baker Road, asked questions about the proposed Mill Creek Trail. Well, yeah, but she was really asking how it impacts her property. She wasn't just asking is the trail nice. I think there's merit in some of the detail we have, and I don't really see it as causing any problem. But that's just my opinion.
I'm comfortable somewhere between 2 and 3 with a couple caveats that when people ask about the trail or whatever, a little bit more detail. And the 2 I would take over 3 is the updates where it does a quick summary, an update about the culvert, an update about that. And one other thing I'll bring up there is we do have to, if we change the draft minutes, we have to make a record of how we do that. Another way I've seen some communities do that is instead of having a section that summarizes all the changes, the draft to the final, the red lined.
That's what we do.
So
In the permanent version, it's
yep.
red line.
So when we do that, we don't have to do this. They just made changes to the minutes. It's a peculiar word, different than the planning commission as who's an administrative body and the ZBA who's quasi-judicial, where they have to have a little bit more meat for why they decide things. So as long as we can summarize the little gist of it, like between 2 and 3, I'm comfortable with.
I guess my comment is I guess I agree a little bit with Sean there. That I think more is better. The public can understand some of the opportunities that have, or some of the other information that's there. It's just not just red meat. But I just feel that there's time that those things are important to be said and that we recorded.
Yeah, I mean, if you read the stuff where it just says, Ms. Nichols submits a report, talks about DTE tree trimming, somebody might wonder where the DTE tree trimming is. But if we just keep our minutes the same way they are, it says behind 2nd Street, on 2nd Street. It's not that informative, is my point. So but it's a record, I get that it's a record of what was talked about, but it's not really informative if you look back.
I guess that's what.
So I don't see any harm in
Yes,
it.
more is better. It informs, particularly since we don't, we have started, by a citizen helping video this, and some people don't know what's going on. If you can listen, at least read the minutes, it says a little bit more what's going on.
Anyway, just
my opinion.
Yeah, food for thought. Anybody else have any comments on what's presented? Okay, new business item L8 was added to the agenda, so we'll take this one kind of slow since we haven't looked at this. This is consideration of partnering with the schools to improve access to the industrial park. I'll turn it over to Courtney and Patrick, I guess, to give an update.
So when
We can figure out what we're supposed to do.
So when the schools started talking about doing the work that they're gonna do, adding the deceleration lane on Dan Hoy, we talked about whether it was also an appropriate time to deal with sort of the turning radius issues that we knew existed for trucks turning from Dan Hoy onto Bishop Circle when they make that right. They kind of have to swing out into the other lane to make like a wide right turn mainly because of that first island. So we thought, well, when all of that's going to be torn up anyway, it would make sense to do something to it geometrically because it's going to be torn up. So we asked the school, Patrick put together the plan that you have in front of you and asked the school contractors to provide us a quote to do that, and it came back around $26,000, which seems affordable to partner with them. Like I said in there, we may try to find part of it with a different contractor because part of it was a little bit high, but just the problem is, not problem, but the issue is, the schools are going to start construction on this soon here, so if we're going to do something, we would need to move forward with it quickly and let them know. So that was why we were thinking if council could approve the $26,000, then we can, work with them to get that done. Whether it's this fiscal year, I assume we'll probably pay for it next fiscal year, because it probably won't be done this fiscal year. They might start it, but I doubt it'll be done.
I'll make a motion that we approve the work not to exceed 26,000.
Second.
Moved by Smith, second by Michelle, was it?
So there'll still be some things to work out, like the sign, and we probably have to put in a new sign. The one that's there now would go away.
Would go away?
Yeah, I don't think it's salvageable. Is that what we were thinking?
Yeah.
Big concrete
Yeah.
monolith.
Right, and we do have kind of a new style of sign we've been using for our parks that we could potentially use here. I wasn't as concerned about that detail as I was about just getting the road work done, and then we can deal with the sign, and, we'd be getting rid of the flagpoles and lights for now, until we figured out what to do.
In your memo, what does the second part of the first sentence mean? Or second sentence? You said the submitted design proposes to reconstruct the entrance with the same roadway geometry as the current condition. That was the design submitted by the schools?
So yeah, as part of the project, just to kind of give a summary again of what is actually going to happen, because of some of the improvements that the school is doing, the biggest thing from a traffic perspective on Dan Hoy is that they really need to provide a left turn lane or center turn lane along pretty much the entire frontage of that the school that's being constructed on Dan Hoy. So as a result, they're really going to be moving the road, kind of holding that northern alignment to where it is, and then basically adding 12 feet to the south side. So what they've really proposed, especially at this intersection, is really just kind of taking the existing geometry and more or less recreating that with this new, basically the new curb line that's going to be shifted farther to the south. So when it was submitted, we kind of were aware of this issue just from years of seeing how vehicles handle that particular curve. So we submitted to the design team that was putting the plans together, that's something that's an issue. There was some resistance by the schools about covering that under their project, so sensing that it was going to be a situation where they could accommodate it if the city, participated in the cost, kind of initiated the discussion, saying, let's make this better, we're going to be in here doing work. So initially, we kind of looked at different options. One was making that radius a lot larger, which would allow the island to stay, but the contrasting part of that is now, if we do put a sidewalk in there eventually at some point, it's a much larger crossing that you'd have to cross. And we're now getting a little bit closer to some existing gas infrastructure in that area. If you happen to look at the corner, there's some vent structures above ground. So as we get a little bit closer to that, we kind of look, the other option is, well, we can take the island out, and then the turning movement is made. It's more of a sweep than just a typical turn, and you kind of get to the same goal. So you keep a little bit narrower of a crossing, but you eliminate the issue of the trucks running over the curb line. So those are kind of two options, and ultimately we approached Granger asking for a price for the one that you see in your packet today, which takes out the basically that there's an island, contains a sign, there's a light pole, and then there's some lighting to that as well. So that would all be taken away and replaced with concrete and asphalt.
Who decides between alternative 1 and alternative 2, which, because the layers are different?
We wanted to test it out to see if there was a discernible difference. Really, actually, they're very close. I want to say it was within a couple $100. There's benefits of both.
That's what I was wondering, engineering-wise, which is going to be best for all the truck traffic that needs to handle.
It depends a little bit. The nice thing about the asphalt cross section is we place it and it's back open relatively quickly. The concrete going to cure a week, so there's some time there where it's going to be a little tight. Obviously, it's not tight now with the sign being there.
But the lifespan, any difference?
I mean, really, the concrete underlying that should last hopefully in the 40-year range. The asphalt is a 20-year. Maintenance snow overlay would have to happen sometime for either one of those options, really. This area was paved in 2014 as part of the industrial park repaving. So it's really wouldn't be due for another maintenance activity in probably the 15-year range, I guess.
So what's the difference between alt 1 and alt 2?
Alt 1 is, it's basically concrete base with a little bit of asphalt leveling, or just an all asphalt base.
The different layers.
Is this a map wrong here? Is this supposed to be a center turn lane in this road here? Because I see deceleration on both sides and then just 2
There
lanes.
should be.
I don't see a center
I'll
lane.
look at that a little closer.
Well, my concern on this though, Patrick, is the trucks turning. If we take that island out, cars are going to use it to turn left out of the research park, and they're going to be in the way of the trucks. They're going to naturally swing over and form 2 lines when it's busy. Well, they are. Because that's what they want to do now. Right, 'cause I think I've heard actually Dan comment on that there's only 1 lane out there, and the ones, if 2 or 3 cars are waiting to turn left right now, it backs up beyond the island. So we know there's cars that are going to go left to Baker.
Go ahead.
And I don't think we're talking about striping that as a left,
Well, that's
right?
my suggestion would be to stripe it.
Well, if you stripe it as a left turn lane, then the truck's going to
No,
cross.
not to stripe it as a left turn lane.
Stripe it as a not as a turn left, turn right. And if they cross over, they cross over.
Well, I guess I'm going to go back to the, I think that this should be widened to the west. So they don't have to,
South.
I mean, if we're really going to fix things here, no, to the west.
Yeah, on the whatchamacallit property.
Yeah, west,
looking
and
out.
then the incoming lane should be widened out so the trucks can turn into it without going into the left lane, and then you could have a left lane.
It's our right away, right?
I don't know, but I mean, I think if we were really trying to solve this problem, we should use whatever space solve all the issues, which is getting cars out as well as getting trucks in.
Is the
And I think the least popular movement across this is the pedestrians that are actually crossing. I mean, I realize that you would add, if you had another widening, you'd make it 12 feet wider. But it's not a real popular pedestrian route, and we have some sidewalk there. We don't have sidewalk on the other side yet, but I would say that 12 feet is not the leading design criteria, I guess, for the reason not to widen it. It's not like it's not going to be compliant, it's going to be longer.
So we would still take the island out, or now we're deleting it?
Have to.
You could, the initial one that we approached Granger with, we didn't actually get pricing on it, but the original request was to open that radius up. And that's what Mayor Keogh's talking about, is basically taking that radius now and probably push it back another 10 feet closer to the, just make it a little wider area.
But that doesn't solve the left turn problem if we leave the
It would not
island.
solve that problem, yeah. So maybe you could do a combined project where you increase the radius and also take out the island. And now you are kind of providing relief for the traffic exiting the park, and then also the traffic entering the park via trucks.
But go back to what you said about the schools. They don't feel they need to participate in this, although they are the ones that are causing it by shifting the road?
Their belief is that that was, that's how it was there now. You know, they didn't have particularly strong reasons for why they weren't going to do it, other than saying they wouldn't. So they did, pretty much everything else we asked for.
Right, I mean, they're doing a lot of work on that road, so I didn't
Right.
think it was unreasonable that something that does exist because the island is there now was completely unreasonable, that it wouldn't be something we dealt with ourselves.
I know, I'm just asking, is it true though that they didn't hit the island, they don't hit the island now?
The island's pretty chewed up.
Well, the issue now is they overtrack quite a bit. There's actually some concrete sidewalk that's kind of put in as an apron. If you were to lay out, even with the largest vehicle, if you go out there right now, you'll see there's concrete sidewalk behind that curve. They'll actually go beyond that if it's one of the largest trucks on the road. Typically, that is not the typical truck that comes through there, but occasionally may.
They're getting 53-foot trailers back there.
I'm not really married to the island, I just think that we ought to correct, if we're gonna do something at the intersection, I think we ought to correct all
Well,
the
if
issues.
we take out the curb and widen it and take out the island, then what is the cost? Because we can't come back with this, we have to decide something. So do I need $50,000 then, which is gonna be very difficult, but I suppose doable?
My guess on the incremental cost to widen the curb is something, really, because they are putting a lot of that curb in already, the additional incremental cost would be some earthwork, a little more concrete, a little more asphalt. So my gut is somewhere in the 10,000 range to pick that up. So if you want to take the island out and do a little bit of widening, I think a
We should
35,000.
set it like 40, 35,
Yeah, I
40
think
or
that
somewhere in there.
should capture all those costs.
Do we still have the problem of the left-hand turn when they do that?
If we take the island out, then no, we can deal with both.
You take the island out.
And
So
widen.
you're gonna say you're gonna have maybe 3 lanes coming in there.
Right.
And then stripe it.
Right, it would need to be striped.
And then there's enough right of way on each side.
Say it again?
There's enough right of way on each side to determine when you're gonna put it on. To replace the sign.
The sign.
Because there will be an
That's a little
industrial park entrance sign,
Right,
so
right, right.
we'd have to deal with that.
We'll end up in Walkabout Creek instead.
We can probably line up a temporary sign as part of the Dan Hoy improvement, just a typical road sign. Part of that work would include doing some new signs.
As long as there's a Bishop Circle sign, right? I mean, so we just need to make sure that stays, because, nowadays, people are just putting stuff into their phone, they're not looking for the industrial park sign, in all reality.
Amend my motion to be up to 40,000.
Accept.
Further discussion?
Okay.
Sound good? Please call the vote.
Knight,
Yes.
Fisher, Tell,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Council comments beginning with Mr. Michelle's, please.
I've got nothing.
Ms. White?
Nothing, okay.
Mr. Smith? Nothing. Ms. Jones?
I have tickets. The Dexter Historical Society is doing Gordon Holidays, which will be the 23rd and 24th of June. We have a fundraiser with George Bedard, who used to always play at Dexter Days. I have tickets, it's $75, I mentioned it. It is a fundraiser, 100 for reserved seating. You get goodies with this, food, plus good music, so.
Will there be dessert?
Yes, there will be dessert, by the way, by our famous Mr. Cousins will be providing
Forget it.
dessert.
You're ruining it for me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Fisher?
Thanks.
Mr. Tell?
No, thank you.
Mr. Cousins?
Just glad to have my wife home after 20, 35 days.
Yay.
Congrats.
This afternoon, we just sat out for half an hour, listened to church and watched the sun and enjoyed the flowers. That I tell you. But it's been very good.
Okay, we are back around to non-arranged participation. Is there anyone on the agenda that would like, or in the audience who would like to speak this evening? Okay, I will see the motion for adjournment. Moved by Smith. Fisher, all those in favor? Aye.
Good.